Welcome to the Unraveling Onion Podcast.
I like you in pink.
Well, thanks. All right, everybody. We are episode 2 of the Unraveling Onion, where we peel the layers of life and try and live a better story and improve ourselves one little itsy bitsy thing and layer
One
at a time.
tiddly bit layer at a time. I'm going to throw that in every podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, this episode I think I want to dive into is this idea of consumption. And consumption's it's a bad habit that we can dive into, and the world wants you to consume. That's all around you that the world wants to consume. Make you blah, 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 blah. Let's start over. All right.
3, 2,
Okay.
1. Welcome to the Unraveling Onion
Where we peel layers and layers and layers
of life
and create a better life.
We'll work on it.
We're working on that. We're working on this intro. Anyway, today I want to talk about consumption, something that can really become an addictive behavior in not just with food, but like with television and cell phones and
social media.
And not only that, but just being obsessed with consuming the idea of beauty and buying stuff you just don't need because, if you watch TV, it tells you need this. It tells you need to be more beautiful. It tells you need to look have more fashionable clothes on. It tells you need to, go on more vacations. And what doesn't it tell you need? I guess is I could go down the list, but consumption is something we all need to work on because we don't need everything. And I think that's what part of maturity is realizing that life is right in front of you and you should value the things you have, because as you buy things and buy things and buy things, you obsessed with the newness of it. And then it just becomes a thing in your house, and then you want another new thing, and then you want another new thing, and then you want another new thing, and you never really get to the end of the want. And
You're still a child in that sense. I feel like with kids, they're constantly wanting that new toy because it's what's in front of them at the store. They get home and play with it for 15 minutes and then it gets put away in a container or a drawer somewhere and never pulled back out again.
And you're at Walmart and you just said, I just bought you a new toy. And they said, well, yeah, but I want another one. And you kind of look at them like, then why wouldn't you want another one after I buy you this one? You'll never run out. And I think we all think we're going to be happy when we reach this peak of all these wants we have. But the one thing about wants that we don't realize is a want is like a hole inside you. And if you want something, it means you feel like you're missing something. And I think the attitude shift that we got to consider is maybe you don't need anything. You have everything you need. You can, as long as you can eat and get some water, have some social relationships, you have everything you need. Now, everything else is about building those things up. And not because you need them, but it just adds to the flavor of the things you actually need. You need relationships. You want to have aspirations in your personal life or career or your relationship with your wife or your friends or whatever it is. Those things can improve, but they're not reliant on consuming fashion and things and stuff and all the things that media tells you.
That's why the Marie Kondo thing is so popular right now on Netflix, because it's about decluttering your life, and that's such a huge thing right now. It's super popular to live a more simple life and living the Danish life and simplifying. But I think what she does is really allows you to process giving away things or keeping things in a different way. So it's not about just like giving things away and like decluttering. It's, finding things that really bring you joy and love. So even like when you go shopping, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, right? If you don't love it, you shouldn't buy it. If you're going through your house and it doesn't bring you joy, you give it away. And just like that mentality, because obviously we all like buying things. I love buying things. It's satisfying, but we're learning how to be more particular about what we are purchasing and what we are consuming. We love, TV shows. We love music videos. So it's not about eliminating it, but only focusing on the things that bring you joy.
Well, and the attitude should be is, what can I sacrifice to make my life better? And the one weird thing about sacrifice is, I fasted a couple weeks ago, and I did a 7-day fast. It was
first fast
it was
ever.
my first fast ever.
7
I got
days.
really interested in intermittent fasting, and I saw immediate improvements. And we got a siren outside, but I saw immediate improvements, so I tried a 7-day fast, and it was a challenge. And I could go into that challenge all day, but I want to stick to consumption right now. But one thing you learn from doing something like that is there is this narrative of sacrifice that we see through in biblical text and in all stories of people losing things in their life. But one thing that happens when you sacrifice your favorite TV show or your favorite food, or maybe you sacrifice, going out for drinks or buying this or buying that. One thing that you don't think about, everyone's worried about, I don't know if I could go without that, but that's not the point of sacrifice. The point of sacrifice is to open up opportunities for things that you would be buying or would be doing when you're not doing that thing you regularly do, or when you're not putting effort or money into those things that you regularly put effort or money into. And it creates
inviting a new opportunity.
And that new opportunity could be what changes your perspective. It changes you. And it's a little thing. When I was fasting while you were eating, because you're pregnant, you couldn't fast with me.
I was going to fast with him. By the way, we've been talking about doing fasting for a long time, and we were about to do it. And then I found out I was pregnant. And so obviously I can't do it for another 2 years.
So what I learned is, this created opportunity for me to read more, and it created opportunity for me to think about, make time for myself and my thoughts and take an extra fresh breath of air outside. And those little things said, wait, why don't I do this more? Do I really? Maybe I went back to eating, and now I'm still making time for the things that I developed. Now I'm doing a lot more reading than I did, because I learned, while she was eating, I put 20 minutes into reading, and that 20 minutes of reading was really good for me. Or that 20 minutes of exercise was really good for me, because I had a new opportunity. I didn't know what to do with myself when I wasn't eating. So that opened doors. And I think that's the point of sacrifice. So when you're thinking about, okay, I'm not going to watch The Office every night before bed. That's your sacrifice. Let's say you watch Netflix every night, every day. Well, let's just say you turn the TV off. It's going to feel weird. It's going to be out. It's going to be this little chaos realm where you're going to be like, well, what am I going to do? And you're scared of it. And I think that's something you and I have embraced in our relationship of, hey, let's turn the TV off. And we have this playlist, we have a jazz playlist. We call it Camel Jazz. And long story short, it's just our romantic playlist. And it's dinner music, it's dance music, it's cooking music. It's music that grounds us together and puts us in a spiritual, connective environment where everything and everyone is welcome, and only happiness is allowed in this house. And that's what jazz music does for us. And it's because we turn the TV off.
And we have to stare into each other's eyes and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Or play a game. Or read.
Or we stretch or sit on a massage chair. And those opportunities present themselves just by saying, okay, I'm not going to do what the world wants me to do, is consume, because that's what we always tend to do, because it's entertaining. It fills a void of the regular day of work or life or kids or whatever, where you can just say, okay, I just need a break from this and get a little comedy, a little action, a little drama. But these narratives that you're consuming, you can build in your own life. The most important moments in my life are when I'm laying on the ground with Tesla and we're playing, because we're not both looking the same direction at the screen. And I got to be a positive influence for her, that it's okay to not look at that screen. And that's the role model I have to be, because we're going to live in this age where she's going to feel the pressure of consumption nonstop. And that consumption is not just about, hey, watch more TV, watch TV, scroll through Facebook. It's more than that. What is on this media and what the world tells you to want to consume are bad ideas. And not the stories themselves, but the values in the stories. That, hey, I like to call them junk values.
That you're constantly not good enough.
That you constantly need more. That you constantly need to look better. That you constantly need to consume and watch every episode. That you constantly need to buy the newest thing. And that's where the money is coming from. And these phones, the technology behind phones and television is advertising and marketing from companies that want to sell you a product you don't need. To tell you that, hey, don't lay in the hammock outside and drink something healthy. Be inside, watch Netflix, eat junk food, drink sugar, do all the things that will cost you money, because that's how they survive. That their goal is to become richer. But your goal is not to be a consumer. Your job, your passion's going to be, and I know people that are young think their passion is, I want more and more and more, but as you grow up and you have a family, and then you realize, you know what, the most important thing I need is peace in my home. And because your relationships matter, the people in your life matter, not all the exterior things of what I need in life that the world tells me I need. It's to disconnect from the world and live a life that you're passionate about. And all these external factors really distract you.
Well, you need to make sure that if you are consuming, what you're consuming is healthy for your mind and your body. What was that analogy you had about consuming the junk food in your body?
Oh, yeah.
This was a late night.
Yeah, I just think, these junk values they're just like junk food. And you can correlate them in different ways. And I probably can't imagine what I correlated. I correlated fat to, hey, buy some, junky food. And then you can correlate like lack of exercise to sit down all day. You can correlate junk food to junk ideas really easily if you just sit down and you think about it. You watch that commercial, you're saying, you can look past the lines and you're saying, they're telling me I need to sit down more. They tell me that I need to look better. They're telling me that I have a void in my life and I need to consume that in order to become a better person.
Well, and the thing about junk food too is it's extremely satisfying in that moment when you're eating it. Like it has that initial,
like a TV show does.
Yeah, that like adrenaline rush that, when you eat it, it feels good. It feels great. And with junk food, or any kind of unhealthy diet, whatever you're eating, it doesn't happen, instantly. It's a gradual over time. And eventually, in a month or 2 months, then you start feeling it weigh you down. You feel the effects. That's just the same thing with the junk values. It's like you get that immediate gratification and you don't realize, because it's day by day until a year later and you're realizing that you're so unhappy and depressed and
you haven't done anything.
None of that made you feel good.
Yeah, and you haven't done anything. You've consumed so much that you've consumed so many narratives from Netflix and from buying all the things to look better, and you've consumed all this stuff, and then you realize, but what have I done? I didn't go hiking once this year. I live in this town or this city where I have all these beautiful things and I haven't even been there. And I haven't developed any new things with my relationship, or I haven't developed anything in my career. I haven't worked hard towards anything. I didn't do anything that made me feel like I took a step up in my life in these multi-different aspects of my life.
Or even just reading a book that actually adds value to your life.
So consuming is tempting, and you will feel it. You will feel it if you just said, man, what happened to my night? I just consumed 6 hours of Game of Thrones, and I'm in the same place I was yesterday. And as you get older, then you realize, oh man, I used to consume and it didn't matter because I had all the energy in the world. I had all the health in the world. I could stay up till 2 a.m. and party, and I could wake up the next day and be fully sprouted.
Or eat whatever I want. It doesn't affect my body. I still look the same.
But then you get older and you have kids, and then you only have small windows for entertainment. And then you look back at you as 20-year-old and you're like, man, if I would have just had the maturity I have now about the things in front of me, the things laid out in front of me if I would have just seen the value in them as they are, I would have focused my energy and my time and my money into those things that really build me up as an individual. Instead, I'm here. I have a house full of, I used to collect bobbleheads, and I'm like, what am I doing with all these bobbleheads that I put? And I have every movie in the world that I won't ever rewatch, and I have all these things that I've acquired in my 20s, and it means nothing to me. And I'm thinking, man, that could have been education, that could have been knowledge, that could have been exercise, that could have been life experience in the city I grew up in.
Travel.
It could have been travel. It could have been perspective. But I'm really good at office trivia. I've seen.
You're really good at it.
I'm really good at. Yeah, that's exactly. I'm really good at trivia. I know.
He's great for movie trivia.
And I've been so buried in media my whole life, and that's kind of the way I grew up. And then I hit this point in my life where I went camping, and I had some experiences that were connecting me with nature. And then once then I, of course, meeting you, kept my eye on the ball, and I said, anything I got to do to have her in my life, I know that forever I will be aiming up and disconnecting from anything that was negative in my past. But that doesn't have to you don't have to have that aha moment from things. You can have that aha moment just by just looking at yourself and saying, where do I want to be? And picking an aim of where you want to be in health, where you want to be in career, in your relationship. And you can pick those aims and just say, I don't even know what it looks like, but I do know the person I do know the idea of the person I want to be. And some people turn to religion for that, and they say, hey, what would Jesus do? And other people can just look at that as a potential. When you tell someone that you don't live up to your potential, you know what that means. You know what it means. You know what it means that if your potential means, man, if I put the effort into the things that I know I could be that. Because you know what that means if I say you didn't live up to your potential. Because that's this meta idea. It's almost it's an idea of you across time if you put in the effort. And the problem is young kids, they think the phone is cool. Being relevant on all the movies and all the content that's out there is being sold to teenagers is the pathway to this idea of, how would you say, completeness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not it. And then they wake up and then they get their first job, and then they graduate college, and then they're sitting down with their boss doing a job they hate, and then they realize, wait a second, I hate this. But I've been aiming for this and doing this forever. Why did I do that? I could have read more books on the thing I like, because now I'm witnessing this world of everyone's their own brand. You can be an artist, and you can also be your own marketing department for your art, and you can be your own advertising for your art. You could have been anything. You can be a DJ, you can be an artist, you can be literally anything you want, and then market yourself, because marketing yourself is cheap now.
Mm-hmm.
You are your own brand.
You have all the tools.
And so we're living in an era where you can do what you love, but we're also living in the era where the media and all the powers of that in advertising and marketing are telling you, hey, don't worry about that. Worry about worry about scrolling and clicking and engaging in our comments and all these other things. And it's like, that's not the way to be. That's not the answer. And young people that I talk to now, I'm like, hey.
Boredom is luxury.
Oh man. Boredom is, you're not bored as an adult. And that's one thing that
and if you are, you should be doing something else.
Yeah, that weighs heavy. It weighs heavy. When you have kids and you hear someone say they're bored, you look at them like, dude, bored? I haven't felt boredom in 10 years. And that's what people, not me, myself, but like when you have kids for a long period of time, they're looking at you like, bored? When I'm bored, I don't have boredom. I'm either doing stuff or I'm trying to rest. And kids, any kids are out there listening, if you have a sense of boredom, you're not taking advantage of your time well, because it's gonna hit you in the face one day, and it's gonna be sad to look back at life and say, man, I didn't engage in opportunities that were right in front of me, and I had all the time in the world.
Unfortunately, that is part of maturity, is because it's so much easier to look back and realize all of those steps you could have taken and things you could have done, and you chose not to because at the time it wasn't important.
And what is important when you're a kid? That's what's hard, is you can't even determine what's important. But guess what? If you just pick a book that kind of interests you, and it sucks. It's going to suck at first. But if you're going to find that you can literally find a book about anything. I mean, it could be the history of comic books. I mean, it will. The
library is free.
The library is, and you can just listen to podcasts. Podcast gives you perspective on people's careers and paths that really help you. It just gives you perspective on the origin story of how these people come to be. And really, you know what that story is? When you hear about these people that make impacts on life, they had discipline.
And they snatched opportunity.
When they were, some people had it really young and some people had it older, but guess what it took? It took that discipline once they found something they loved. But you got to practice discipline, so when you find something you love, you have the discipline to hit it hard and become the best at it. And
you know what I always regret? When I look back, and it's so silly because I don't know if it would have furthered anything, but not doing study abroad in college. And instead putting in 28 units for a semester so I could graduate early to get married. Because traveling is my number one passion, and that's something that I absolutely love. And I decided not to, just so I could continue on in a life that I thought was the way it's supposed to be. But man,
And traveling
I
has
regret
value.
that. So
And it has value. I mean, it's some people might say, well, you're wasting your money. You just go on a trip, you come back. But no, it brings perspective.
Well, and when you're there for 3 or 4 months, actually going to school and integrated in the culture, it's like just even a 2-week trip opens your eyes. Imagine when you're traveling abroad and you're, living your life on a day to day, invested and involved in this different country and the way of life. I mean, it really gives you a different perspective. I feel like it would open your eyes and give you a little sense of maturity a little bit earlier to be able to realize what's important.
Well, and our friend Erica, she's out traveling the world right now. Yeah. And, she's single, solo, and she's doing her thing. And I've been pushing her to do this thing. And
it's scary.
Oh, man.
The idea of it is scary, to go travel abroad she's 2 months by yourself. You don't know any of the
couch surfing,
languages
hostels.
Or culture.
Well, and I kind of tell her, because she has her moments, and she's like, I don't know what to do with myself sometimes, and I don't know, should I be hanging out alone? I kind of like, I want to be with interactions, but then I do interactions and I don't know if I want to. And there's this comfort level that she's trying to find while she's traveling, because she's in the chaos realm. But what's great about that perspective, going into the chaos realm, doesn't matter where you travel to, just somewhere strange, somewhere outside of your world, anything, it could be any kind of experience. To have a new experience means you're in a chaos realm where you're going to adapt, because you're going to have to look inward to what makes you happy and what drives you and what gets you through the day. Because usually you have all these external sources like social media and a friend you can call, and you have your patterns of behavior that you rely on. But when you leave the country or go on vacation or whatever it is, you let go of all those things, and you have to look inward, saying, what makes me at peace in any scenario, not just my home scenario where I rely on those relationships or those things or that TV show, but what makes me at peace when I'm not around all the things I rely on that I consume regularly.
And honestly, that's probably the most uncomfortable place to be. It's being alone by yourself with your own thoughts, and it's uncomfortable. Especially
if you don't feel you're where you want to be. And especially with all the pressures of where people think you should be. And then you put that own pressure on yourself because you watch the news, you read social media, you're told by advertising you're not pretty enough or attractive enough, and that you're told that you need to be having this type of relationship in your life. Whatever it is, it doesn't even matter, but you have all those pressures. So when you have you're stuck in your own thoughts based on the world's perception that you've been scrolling through in your phone for pretty much your whole life, that's where you got to find peace.
And a sense of meaning, right?
Yeah.
That
and
boredom
fulfillment.
And that uncomfortableness is that loss of meaning, that loss of direction, not knowing really who you are, what you stand for, and what your goal is in life. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do in my life.
Me too. I mean, I think everyone listening probably just thinking, hey, I don't know if this is the career I want for the next 40 years. I don't know if this is the path or the daily routine I want. And the best way to find that out is to do subtle things that break away from your experience. That's the sacrifice we were talking about earlier. Sacrifice things you're consuming. Sacrifice some daily habits, even if it's for a week or a month, and find out what opportunities grow out of that.
Try a hobby a week. One little something, whether it's painting or going out. I don't know.
We even tried this thing where we would just commit days, saying, hey, what if this day is our clean day where we get rid of things? And what if this month we do a fast? What if this month we do no TV this month? Our friends did that, and it was a huge thing for them.
Or yoga every night, or
practice something you don't practice. Sacrifice something you feel uncomfortable sacrificing.
I remember reading a really cool story about this man. I think he was in his 80s, but he had gone to get his degree. I think he got his degree in like 4 or 5 different things throughout his life because he was so curious about the world and he was so interested in things. But because he had the time and he dedicated his time to learning something new in every stage of his life. So, just because you're in this career doesn't mean that's what you have to be. Sometimes you can start over and sometimes that's okay because your passions change. But I think he was like an accountant for a good part of his life and he just was unhappy. And then he decided to become a chef and he went to school and became a chef. And then he did something else. And I don't remember what he actually got into, but he had so many degrees that he just kept going back to school to learn something new. And, when you see him, and I think he just, when I say in his 80s, he was vibrant and happy and alive. Like he wasn't, crippled down and stooped over and like looking haggard. Like you could see his zest and joy for life because he was experiencing life and really engaging it and taking advantage of the one life that we have. And I think that's something to aspire to.
Well, and what you're consuming is, if you need a daily dose of negativity, consume.
Every time we go to bed, we look at Facebook and we're scrolling. We're like, we don't need
what the heck
Why
are we doing?
But it's natural, right? It's natural to go to bed, pick up your phone, and just see what other people are doing.
What stress is out in the world today? And that's what you're doing.
That's what you say.
Why don't we open the door to stress and see what kind of stress is going on in everyone's world right now? Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. And if just change that perspective of what you're actually doing. You're opening your door because to this reality that isn't even real. It's not even representative of what's going on in the world. There's a lot of people that are just quiet and live a simple life and don't yell to everyone how proud or how happy they are. No, there's a lot of people that have simple lives where they say, I'm happy. I come home to my family every day. I spend time with my daughter and we grow together. We develop together. We lift each other up. And then sometimes we spread out to more family, and then we spread to our community, then we spread to politics. And it's because they realize that what matters is not materialism. What matters is the things that last and have always lasted throughout time. I read this book, Notes about a nervous planet, and it was about this guy who's had anxiety, and he wrote this whole book is about just notes he had about that gave him perspective to ground him in life when he was having anxiety. And this book's wonderful. If you read it, you'll just look at it and it's very obvious, but it's also that obviousness is what
we'll link to it in the description.
Yeah, we'll link to the book in the description. But there's this one part where God, I'm trying to think what the title was called, but it was like things that have always been. And he talks about ocean waves, the sky, kisses, things that people
being scared of the dark.
Being scared of the dark, monsters. Like there's ideas that have, when you look in the ocean, you know that you're looking at something that has always been. When you kiss your wife and kiss your kid before bed, that is something that's been happening forever, and that is where peace is. Things that you're grounded in nature, love, breathing, seeing patterns of breath in the ocean and the wind and birds chirping. All the world is breathing, and this world of materialism is going. I'm already starting to see signs that people are responding to it, and mindfulness and meditation and yoga are becoming this new, they're taking over. It's taking over because they know people are stuck in this material, looking at their phones, getting stuck in this idea of materialism. And now we're seeing like ketamine trials, and people are talking about, in Denver here, they're trying to decriminalize psilocybin mushrooms. And then there's LSD out there, and you hear about LSD and ecstasy helping military veterans with PTSD. And they literally take this stuff once.
And it cures them.
And then you got to think, well, and I was just listening to Russell Brand and Joe Rogan, and Russell Brand had this amazing point. And he said, doesn't that just show you that you can take this pill, or you can meditate and you can do these things, but you take a pill or take a drug, and then you see reality as it is in a different light. We're completely disconnected from all the things you own and all the things that the world tells you you need. And you disconnect from that for a second, and then you get it. And you say, you know what? All that stuff I don't need. And the fact that you can do that with meditation and mindfulness means that materialism is the condition that pretty much causes people's anxiety and mental illness around these days. Mental illness is completely linked to materialism. If you can cure mental illness by telling people to meditate and disconnect in whatever way they can, and you know what? LSD and psilocybin and some of these drugs have been part of that process to have people let go of materialism.
Well, and that's just one side of it, because the other side is community. So when you're talking about even people who, we were listening to that podcast about people who are in recovery or, an addiction, and how they don't have a sense of community. And that's what really helps ground you. If you don't feel like you've got that circle around you, or that tribe, or some kind of integration into the real world.
That you're not alone.
When we talk about, consuming in general, we've seen a disconnect in the way relationships are and the way that our community actually formulates. You were just talking yesterday about the circle of friends have actually changed, and they're starting to integrate when you have your close circle of friends and then your social media circle of friends and your outer groups, and they kind of all just, you're not quite sure where the line is drawn anymore, because, you feel like your social media friends are some of your closest friends.
But they really are just people you keep in contact with, but you don't really, I don't know where they are. We haven't determined that line between, you have your close circle of friends, and then you have friends that are kind of distant friends, but they also merge with people that you talk to a lot on social media. So it's like, where do they fit? Right.
And it is a sense of disconnect, because you can have all the friends in the world on these platforms and still feel extremely lonely. And, it's interesting, because I was reading a book called Belong, and I can't pronounce her name, but she actually creates kind of community dance. She has one program where it's like, it's a community dance program. So before work, like in the mornings, one day a week or once a month, they don't remember, but they actually go and have like a dance party, like to get started in the day. But what that's doing is integrating a sense of community with people and interacting and engaging with people in a different way than you would at work or when you come home. Or, but the fact that there's actually books out there on how to create your community, what that actually means, and how to find a circle of friends, your close knit versus your outer circle. There are books on how to do this, and that's so. You talk about things that have always been, and a sense of community and tribe is one of those things that has always been. And so when we're disconnecting from that, we have to relearn and actually read books on how to make friends and how to have that community and
in this modern world. And that's the thing, is the engagement. We all are told that we're engaging with people online, but we're not. It's not engagement. It's not an intimate engagement that makes you feel like a person. Because you can just hide behind this anonymous layer of, hey, this is, you're putting your best foot out there saying, oh, this is how I look at my prettiest, and this is the best things I have to say. These aren't the normal things I say, because I wouldn't want to say that because they might be controversial. They may not be authentic or real, because if they're authentic and real and then you don't like them, I might take it more personally. So I'm not just going to put that out there. And I think people are scared to put stuff out there. And I think there's another thing. I think overall, I think we know we're going down this terrible road of materialism, because like I said, we see people wanting to belong. We see people are lonely and they want to be part of a community, like you said, or they want to, disconnect and declutter their life. And it not just based on, not just clean your room, or, what's her name? Marie
Kondo.
Yeah. She's so popular right now, but it's like,
she tells you how to properly fold your clothes.
Yeah, decluttering is not just a physical process. It's a mental process. And when you see that with meditation, mindfulness, and yoga, where people, hey, let go of all that and start your day this way. Mm-hmm. And once you do that, you have this baseline. And then you say, okay, you close all the windows in your brain and you just say, okay, work, close. And they're just decluttering your window, and you're just closing each tab until you have the home page. And once you have that home page, that's how you start your day. And you say, okay, what do I need to do today? And once you approach what do I need to do today, in your mind, you're attacking the day differently, as opposed to, crap, I'm not going to do anything. How am I ever even going to get to that? I just want to watch TV. I have too many dang windows open.
You got to silence your inner mean girl or guy.
So consuming is easy, guys. It really is. That's what's hard, is to find discipline in yourself, and it doesn't even matter where you put your discipline. It doesn't matter where it is. Start with something small right now. Talk to your wife, talk to your friends, talk to anyone that's part of your life that helps build you up, and ask them. They might have an idea for you, and you know what? They're going to tell you something that might hurt. But guess what? Because it hurts, you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to look inward a little bit after I feel that pain, and you're going to maybe do something about it. We're not perfect. What you're doing is not the perfect way to do things. And it's not that there's nothing wrong with who you are and the things you do, but there was nothing wrong with you when you were 20 either. When you were 20, you were doing the same stuff, and you made a lot of decisions, and you're probably better than you were when you were 20. Or if you were 10, you weren't. There's nothing wrong with it. When you come out as a baby, people don't look at you and say, "Oh man, you're not perfect yet." No, you're not. You're fine, because you're full of potential. And a baby, that's all it is. It's not burdened by life and the material things and stuff like that. You don't have to be anymore either. You obviously have things that you have to work towards the values that matter to you. You have to have a job to, let's just say, support your family. Work towards those things, but then say, okay, what else can I work on? Because you are full of potential. And, one thing we're facing now is, we're kind of dabbing into religion. And one thing I've really picked up from religion is, whether you believe in God or not, and this is a whole nother episode we won't dive into, but if you're an atheist and you don't believe in God, we'll just say hypothetically you don't. Well, do you believe in potential? Do you believe in an idea of what a person who acts good and aims high is? I think that's what some people call Jesus. And you can call it this meta idea of who you would be across time if you made nothing but good decisions. Or a person or a friend you'd want to have in your life. Who do I want to aim to be? Who do I want to aim to have in my life? What kind of life do I want to have? That is potential. That is God. That is an idea that is transcendent of you. And it starts with you making sacrifice. It starts with you deciding how you're going to be disciplined in life. And it starts with you. In our case, it's, hey, you know what? I don't know anything about starting a podcast. Let's just start one. And then as you start one, I've learned, oh my gosh, now I can now that I've started one, I was so worried about just the simple thing of talking on mics and having a camera set up. I was worried about that. But now I'm like, oh wait, what am I going to write in the details about what this podcast is about? What's our first episode going to be about? Oh, what should I read about? And then you start picking it up. And then I'm getting this rhythm down. And we're only in episode 2 right now, and I'm just sitting here, oh, what's our next discussion? What's our next discussion? And how can I fine-tune the technology? And how can I improve the mic situation? And how can I do this and do that? And as you listen to this podcast, I hope it gets better for you to enjoy it, because I'm going to take your feedback, and I'm going to want to change all this stuff. And I know right now we're facing the issue of I'm talking to my wife, but I'm also talking to like several different people that are listening right now. And it's like I don't know where that line is. How do I talk to my wife? How do I, you right there, but I'm also talking to several other people. So it's like, oh wait, we want an intimate conversation, but we also want to talk ideas that like other people are listening right now as well. And that's a weird line, but we're trying to figure it out. And guess what? We will figure it out.
Baby steps. I mean, it's about taking a little small piece of your day or week and committing something to that, whether it's 20 minutes of reading or like for us working out, we try to do like an hour workout each where he would come home from work and he'd go work out, and then I would prep dinner and then he would go, because that seems like, would be the best ideal thing. But for us, that didn't work. The best thing that we found was a workout series that are 20 minutes or less. Something short, something that we know that we can commit to almost every day. But in general, don't overcommit yourself either. Find something that you know that you can take time out of. Everybody has 20 minutes in their day, typically. If you skip a day, that's fine. But if you are trying to learn something new, or you do want to read more, or you do want to take a mental break and go sit outside, even set a timer on your phone or an alarm and put that 20 minutes in, and then you're good. And then it becomes a pattern of behavior, and then eventually that time frame will probably start growing, so the things that you were consuming no longer matter because you're doing something that you're passionate or that you love or that makes you feel better. So that consuming time will slowly fade as you grow the time of important, happy things.
Well, and what you'll learn is, for instance, when we work out, we do yoga, we develop this pattern. Then when we go back and we have our cheat days and we watch TV for 4 or 5 hours or whatever it is, or we, eat junk food, we regret it because we can sense the difference it makes on our body and our mind. And once you can sense that, you actually realize, wait a second, I can't believe I lived a life where I did that every day. And I did feel that way. I did feel sluggish. I did feel, tired. And I've let go of that, and just going back to it once or twice or taking a week off, I am like, oh my goodness, I need to get back into that good habit. And you don't know what you don't know because you just think your baseline's here. But if you move your baseline up, then you'll sense when you're below it. And that's what we want to do, is move the baseline up. And it doesn't have to be at any kind of pace. You don't have to go jump into P90X right now. Maybe you just do jumping jacks and stuff around the house. If you go on YouTube,
10-minute HIIT workout.
Yeah, that's all you need. Try slowly, and you'll see subtle improvements on your life and your mind and your health and your day-to-day growth towards career and aspirations and hobbies and art. So I think that's a good wrap up there. Mm-hmm. It's been about 45 minutes. So
until next time.
This
has been The Unraveling Onion.
I hope you enjoy, and please subscribe and like, and whatever platform this is on. I have no idea. I got to learn about RSS feeds and posting this to Apple and Spotify, and that's all stuff I got to pick up too. So whatever I'm doing, please, whatever it's posted on, please post, something positive to help me out. And let's get this podcast off the ground, and let's all work together on improving our lives. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.